Hello and welcome to today's episode of AI in High Tech. We are going to be talking about unveiling how to look at the innovations, overcoming some of the challenges, and shaping the future with AI. I'm your host Ajay, and I'm going to talk to two experts today over the next 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to dive into some of the transformative role of AI in high tech industry, from revolutionizing marketplaces, supply chain, platformization, product development, and ultimately the user experience. Right, AI is at the heart of innovation today. But with great powers comes great responsibility. How do we actually scale AI responsibly and while ensuring data privacy, security, and all that? All those things are great, right? But what's the value? How do we actually unlock the value? So that's what we're really going to be talking about today. So joining me today is a panel of experts, who actually live and breathe AI all day, every day. So I would like to first introduce Sumit Chakraborty. He is an AI and technology strategist with deep insights into engineering productivity and some of the major changes that's happening within the high tech industry. I also have Mohammed Hashim, who is an expert in predictive analytics, AI-driven operational efficiencies, as well as he sees how the organizations within the high-tech industry is really looking at bringing in AI into their mix. Welcome, gentlemen.
Oh, absolutely. Happy to be
Thanks,
here.
Ajay.
Happy to be Ajay. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to start with you. So as we really think about some of the platform-driven modernization, all that, so how do you see the agentic AI drive that next era of automation and engineering productivity? So I'm thinking of things like, if you're really trying to do streamline some of those AI-driven platform development and accelerating those digital transformations and all that. What's your thought on that?
It's a great question, Ajay, right? And if you really think through, right, we are sitting in an era where almost everything that you know of software engineering, platform engineering is going for transformation through AI, right? Now, if you look at from various vantages, there's a lot of opportunity as well as you rightly said, there's a lot of responsibility in the hands of the builders to do it right, right? AI opportunity for sure, but then if your fundamentals are not right, you might just get to a rabbit hole where you might get excited by the opportunities, whereas it really does not move your needle in terms of productivity or any other KRAs that you are working on, right? Now, take for example Agentic AI, right? It's a huge rage with almost all the platform companies now talking about Agentic AI, building their platform features, and then coming and trying to solve uh, productivity issues in software, right? But then if you are not catered well with your prompt engineering or with your data silos within your enterprises, any amount of agentic AI might not help you, right? So while we try to look at the customer, look at the pain points, we always understand that there are bigger opportunities with this technology maturing, but we also try to be receptive about the ground issues, right? Like suddenly your developer who is using ABC tool cannot be a rock star overnight using an agentic system if he or she does not understand that how to really prompt, how to do the knowledge management part well, how to collaborate and things like that, right? So there's a lot of those pieces where these are grunt work in the enterprise, if you will, to really make things cohesive, right, and predictable, right, explainable for AI outputs, right, and then kind of layer it on with more of scale up using agentic AI, right? But I see that things are turning, right, and that's actually keeps us motivated, right? I see a lot of our customers now adopting co-pilots. A lot of our customers are now using AI to do testing, right, simulation of test data, right? They are using AI over logging systems to kind of predict the next failure, right? And things like that, right? So these are certain use cases I see that lot of, and even a plain summarization out of a document is helping developers to understand what they need to build well, right? So what I would say is right now there's lot of fuzziness, there's lot of chatter happening, but I think the real winners are the ones who are really doing the 101, 201s well, and getting to use the tool sets and the mature technology that are coming in the market in the next few months or years.
That's a fantastic response to it. So as you were talking through that, right, I was thinking, why did I ask that question first? Because the industry is obsessed with that, right? I mean, so 2025, everybody's talking about it. But you made a great point there, saying that, yeah, let's not start there. That's not the place for you to start. Really starting to think about from the point of view of value first, and then making sure that you do the fundamentals right. So great response, Sumit. So thank you for that perspective. Moving on to you, Hashim. So as you really look at the industry, right? I mean, so you're seeing that AI is sort of enabling that predictive maintenance part of it, and minimizing downtime. And cost control is a huge thing for everybody, and everybody in the industry that we talk to, that's the case. So how do you see that AI sort of helping that whole process, improving that customer experience and operational efficiency?
Oh, absolutely. I think how we see this broadly is more around how, and it can be any of the forms of AI, right? I mean, whether it's generative AI or agentic AI, it doesn't matter. If you look at an enterprise, and most of our conversations with customers is about how do we transform across the enterprise, whether it is the front office involving the customer experience, support desk, service centers, or the sales and the service automation side, or it could be the mid office more around with their inventory, the supply chain management, more of their order management, fulfillment systems, or even the back office, which is more around that finance and legal, their HR process and procurement automation kind of a thing. Now we see this being adopted more from a predictive maintenance standpoint, is more about seeing more how can I prevent more of this proactive issues or maybe some of the service request. So that indirectly hints towards more of enabling and empowering all this one office, if I had to call it the terminology about bringing in the whole front, mid, and back office together, predominantly around self-service, driving them to more self-service and self-help, so that the issue or the ticket or the request doesn't even arise in the first place, and you kind of enable and empower the associates or the team members. That's the first kind of things we're looking into, and we actually see that a lot. From a downtime perspective, predominantly where we are seeing this is how the platforms of choice, and this is more around the system of, I would rather call the enterprise system management, or the platform control layer or the control plane that involves for either application performance management or infra monitoring or infra service assurance kind of a platform. Now, all of these platforms ensure that the either the user experience is kind of not being affected either to their any of the channels which they kind of access, either tools or platforms or applications or through mobile, phablet, tablet, you name it, right? I mean, so that entire journey from engaging to experiencing and transacting on any platform, anywhere, anytime is kind of seamless. So that's where we see more from the predictive maintenance side and the downtime side. Now, the downtime could be more from a user access, could be from an application access, or even could be the service availability part. And there we see enough of these tools already there in the market, whether it is the AI ops tools or the SRE tools, which will actually help to ensure the service resiliency and reliability across app and infra and the user in the mix. Broadly, where we see synergies is the human-centric nature of how these platforms are working towards its a common business goal of like enhancing and elevating the user experience wherever they are, whenever they are, and they get connected. They're making it more situationally personalized and personification of that. And the second we are seeing is underlying could be any platform, anywhere, and any of the hyperscalers, or could be any of the native platforms, legacy platforms, to ensure the performance and robustness of that. But that's where we see synergies between both the system, the human in the loop, and then the applications of business and infrastructure stack. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the way you sort of connect these three things, right? I mean, so, but sort of as a follow-up to that, right? One of the things that we are also seeing is that there is like real-time data analytics and decision making, right? Because everything that you spoke about will have a component of that real-time decision making kind of thing happen, right? So as you really look at, for example, your overall workforce optimization and to make your businesses more agile, how do you see that AI playing a role in that?
Yeah, good one. I think Ajay, I think that's a great point which you're kind of looking at from the whole data angle, right? I mean, broadly we are seeing three different ways of how data is being managed. One, and I'll take personas for each of it, which that makes much easier, right? So for the business persona, what is crucial for them is around the business performance part, the financials, the sales, the predictions, the forecasting, all these things around with it. We have the native platforms which can actually help with that. And it could be probably the powered with the Salesforces of the world, or the CRMs of the world, or the ServiceNows of the world. I think that's pretty much kind of taken care well augmented with all the platforms of choice which already have. So the more of derived insights and forecasting is what comes from those data. The second persona which we are seeing is more from an IT persona, and for them, what is crucial is this various events that happens across either transaction or monitoring or logging, or for that matter, root cause analytics and things. For them, what is of crucial importance is where this data is getting processed, right from event aggregation, event correlation, and most of the cases we see the native platforms of either could be the Splunks of the world, or the telemetry platform, the Sumo Logics of the world, actually kind of taking more and less, and the event management platforms actually handling most of it with the closed loop automation part. And the third area where we see more around the data part is more around the whole data lake, the data analytics part, the big data sort of things. And this is more, I would say, the whole angle of data dimensions of how it is being managed, the data hierarchy. There we see more traction around the data platforms, the data, the tiering of these platforms, and the security side, and the whole yards about managing the data cycle. Where we see more of this AI being playing into the scale is for each of those there's a platform angle where the native built-in capabilities of the platform can help enable and make lives easier for the folks. That's one part. And the second part where we see more of AI playing more angle over here is how we kind of get more derived insights, and then how we kind of simulate and forecast scenarios which has not actually happened, which has not actually happened probably in the past, and kind of make sense out of it. So we see more traction for customers actually starting to ask about, there's one part of the use case that comes out natively out of the box, but what more we can actually do from derived insights and predictive forecasting part, which indirectly comes to the fact that all of these ties up to ensure that from the system to the underlying, could be the underlying infrastructure with the application on top of it, and the business users or whichever person of users, they kind of have a seamless, I would say, interaction right across the stack, more seamless. And that's where we see more of this traction coming into how it can actually help transform experiences, and the moments of truth is actually the experience they get from a transaction.
I really liked your characterization of those derived insights. I think that is the part that sometimes you miss it, and as you really start looking at it, that's not on the surface. It's under the hoods, right? So great perspective, Hashim. So Sumit, switching on to I think one of the things I always notice is that you're always on top of what's happening literally on a day-to-day basis. When I go to your LinkedIn profile or something, I see that you're always literally reading and posting things around that. So one thing in 2025 we can't not talk about is DeepSeek, right? So the past few weeks have been a huge impact on the whole industry with the advent of DeepSeek, and probably some of the other newer models that's coming out, right? So my question would be more along the lines of, how is, at a high level, again, maybe we should have both of you answer this, how should we actually think of the impact of DeepSeek? And what I'm really thinking of is that obviously with something like DeepSeek's advancements coming up, this is going to allow increased efficiency of AI, right? Maybe even like democratization of the AI development, because AI development used to have this huge computing needs and things like that. So maybe that is going down. Who knows, right? Don't know the final verdict on it, but we still believe that there is huge amount of democratization that could happen. And this could also have an impact. I know some of the other industries that we look into are things like the semiconductors and all that, right? So what's the impact on the AI chip market now? What are the NVIDIAs and AMDs going to be doing? And is there a shift in the horizon? The other part of it is, of course, sustainability benefits, right? Ever since ChatGPT came out a couple of years back, the whole conversation has been like, are all the Gen Zers going and using ChatGPT instead of Google? How many trees are they killing, and how are they impacting the world, right? So is there like an impact from a sustainability point of view? The last thing I want to throw out there in this context is like, maybe this is actually a good thing, because there is that continued demand for AI infrastructure is there in a sustainable way, meaning like in an affordable manner, right? So there are a lot of aspects to it throughout, but what's your perspective, Sumit?
This is like a pivotal moment, right? Like literally that is a defining moment of 2025, I would say, right? I think you are right? This is more of a reset, right? This DeepSeek actually, if you take it back and introspect on it, I think a lot of the bragging rights of the big spenders on AI, I think there is a big reset, right? And we have seen this, right? Like it really showed us on the face that you really don't need hundreds and thousands of GPUs worth of training to get to the level of sophistication in terms of on inferencing and outcomes that you would need, right, for a model like DeepSeek, right? And it was busting almost all the charts that OpenAI and other cloud models were talking about, right? So couple of things that I take away out of this, right? One is there's a lot of innovation left on AI, right? So if any company or any product is saying that they've arrived in AI, this is wrong, right? Because no one knows what's next for AI, right? We just started talking about processes like distillation and quantization and mixture of experts and small model languages, right, and compounded AI systems, which all says that AI is not going to be a big bang, right? You talked about, okay, how AI is going to transform AI chips. I think that the latest of Apple chip now has AI inbuilt, right? So things are going to get more sophisticated, things are going to get more smaller, so we'll see a big rush of edge AI, right, using the SML, the small language models coming in. But then even on the large language or the world models, I see that distillation and quantization will make sure that the cost of inferencing is going to become a commodity, right? It is literally like the cloud cycle repeating on us, right? Initially, to get something, a workload to a cloud was very costly, right? But then with almost everyone talking about cloud and the public cloud systems being there, I don't think the cost of cloud was even a factor for you to do or not do, right? Similarly, inferencing will become there, right? A commoditized thing, right? Which also makes sure that the innovation then will come out of the infra layer and inferencing to the applications, right? And that's where companies like Brilio will have a major play, right? Like, because then your vantage, right, or differentiation is not how fast you can infer, right, or inference, but about how intuitive is your experience, how pervasive is your AI experience across the enterprise, right? Hashim was talking about front office, mid office, back office. Think of this, right? I read that an average enterprise user uses up to 27 apps to do his day-to-day work. Now it can be more or less, right? And if AI is done right, it might cut 27 apps to 2 or 3 apps at the most, right? And that's the biggest transformation and the opportunity that is in front of us, right? I touched down on SML, right? The smaller language models, but then I think as and when we go through, we will see that because of quantization, you will see very, very small model coming in, expert models coming in, where some amount of OCR, object recognition, are happening on the edge, and that will lead to very good use cases, right, for us to work on in the gamut of IoT, system on chips, and whatnot, right? And even in the chip side, I think the physical design verifications and whatnot, which is where the major amount of efforts are put, I think we are already seeing a lot of influx of AI in terms of testing, validation, simulation, and things like that, which will definitely cut the cycles of the current silicon development into half or less, right? So I think opportunity all around, and DeepSeek just shows us a mirror saying that it's not done, right? Right, the innovation is still remaining in that arena.
Yeah, absolutely, right. I mean, the kind of efficiencies it can bring to, like the example you gave with respect to chip simulation, all that is tremendous, right? I mean, because that is probably one of the biggest challenges that we have always had. So, hey, Hashim. So moving on to you, right? What are your thoughts on the DeepSeek?
Well, thanks, Ajay. I think DeepSeek, and I totally agree with Sumit. I think these are different stages of how we look at these technologies kind of evolving and capturing, right? While definitely DeepSeek has rattled the AI space, the industry, I think this is more of an evolution rather than, while it has definitely disrupted, that's for sure. It has questioned the status quo of established from OpenAI to Meta and whatnot, right? So I think it has definitely done that. But where we see this and where we see more from these evolution is more about how do these different platforms, whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Meta, any of these want converging. So for any enterprise whom we talk to, probably it's not just one platform that can actually help across their transformations, but the fact that many of these platforms can coexist. I know some of this could be early thoughts. There's definitely thoughts about what would be the data, the privacy, the security about where these things are hosted and executed, and the control of how much we have on data. Having said that and keeping that aside, I think where we see this is most of the while the platforms should be coexisting for the best of having both worlds. And just the way how we have seen uh, hyperscalers like multi-cloud strategy where enterprises would be having the likes of AWS, Azure, Google, IBM, Oracle kind of a cloud. We definitely see there is going to be as we go forward, there will be a multi AI platform which they would have, and whether enterprises would adopt it immediately or probably they would take it in a phase-wise manner, starting with certain set of use cases and then expand to it. We see the near future where it can actually converge more faster than what actually happened in the multi-cloud era. But that is where at least our takes are around DeepSeek and the impact that is going to happen to it. All the others that we have been discussing about it is definitely rattled the industry, and it's kind of democratized exactly the way how OpenAI is like at anywhere, anytime, anyhow at fingertips. Yep.
Well, that's great. Between you two gentlemen, I thought you guys covered like everything from the point of view of the promises, the evolution, and the practical, impacts on the day-to-day world, right? I mean, so this is fantastic. Sumit, coming back to you, right? So far we talked about some of the practical applications, some of the futuristic views of this, as well as what how could the industry evolve. But I want to again drill down into like what's the real thing that is happening within the tech industry today, right? If you were to take AI, and how is that really helping the businesses make more money and be more successful? So what I'm thinking of are things like, if you really look at the AI platforms, right? How is that being impacted in things like your marketplaces or your supply chains and all that, and accelerating those future implementations or the breakthroughs, right? So because those are the things that people care about today, right? So some of the other stuff are like maybe you'll think about it tomorrow, or maybe these are things your NFRs kind of thing. But what's it that the tech industry is making money off of, or should be thinking about making money off of today?
Very good question, Ajay, right? And this is where the rubber meets the road on AI, right? So, see, I see AI predominantly being consumed in three ways, right, in the high tech industry. One is AI as a tool for acceleration, right? Now you can accelerate software productivity, you can accelerate your documentation, you can accelerate your reporting requirements in the business and anything else, right? So think of AI as a tool, right? Like the Swiss Army knife for your developers and other personas, right? So and that's a huge consumption pattern, right? Think of all the co-pilots that everyone else is selling to the same market, right? For that demand, right? The second thing is AI as a enabler for intuitive experiences, right? Every product that we know of right now is trying to sprinkle AI with, right? Like it can be magical listing from eBay, or it can be product attribution and conditional product grading from Amazon. It can be so many different things, right, from a marketplace standpoint, right? And every platform like that is trying to experiment by making sure that at least few product features are AI enabled now, right? So that is a second way of consumption of AI that high tech is doing, right? And you can just extrapolate this. I'm just giving you some consumer facing examples, but it does not need to be that way, right? It can also be that marketing teams, inside marketing teams, are generating more insightful content through AI and whatnot. Finance teams are generating more risk reporting through AI and things like that, right? But think of making every experience from the current status quo to more intelligent, more pervasive, more intuitive, right? So that's the second pillar, and that's and a bucket of demand of AI in high tech, right? The third one is where we have current long drawn processes which has multi-step approvals or multiple guardrails, and AI is trying to come and simplify those processes, right? Think of this whole narrative that Agent Force from Salesforce is playing, right? Or AI in ServiceNow is trying to come for, right? That okay, you have those stitched workflow processes that goes from a workbench user to an approver to a manager uh, uh, to a fulfillment or a provider, right? So those kind of very long drawn workflows are getting transformed through AI tools and frameworks, right? So and that's a huge spend, right? Similarly, on the same lines, every enterprise also understands that over the years they have generated so much of knowledge. There is no one way of managing it, right? Because right now, knowledge is in your emails, in the PowerPoints, in SharePoint sites and workspaces, right? So enterprise knowledge management is also a big kind of a playground for AI, right? And that's where companies like Glean and others are coming into play, right? Where not only it is making your workflows more explainable by using the knowledge that is also there, but it is also trying to help agentic systems being better prepared for those kind of long drawn process. Because who would tell on the runtime for a agent that okay, is this a step that he can do or not do, right? So when you talk about guardrails are basically those small amount of skills that you have deep down in your enterprise, and knowledge management tries to take it out and make it more kind of discoverable for agentic AI, right? So I would say in this span, I think this is how AI is being consumed. There are few more very deep down use cases, but those are one off. But then I see that this is a bigger pattern of these three pillars where AI is being used in high tech.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So, to the listeners, right, if you felt like you took some break over the holidays and didn't catch up on reading on some of these things, don't worry. Listen to some of these kinds of podcasts, right? Because we are sort of distilling all these things and saying that here are the themes that we are seeing. So, talking about practical themes, Hashim, coming back to you, right? Even before the whole advent of OpenAI and the whole Gen AI revolution that we've seen over the past couple of years, chatbots have been something that's been most companies have been thinking about, right? And so I'm thinking of things like your virtual assistants, chatbots. In some cases, it might also be a recommendations engine that Sumit sort of referred to earlier. So how do you see, Hashim, like how are the companies sort of leveraging AI to improve their overall customer service and technical support and all that?
Yeah, sure. I think, and that's a great one, right? I mean, from the way how we are looking at AI adoption, because it's now beyond the hype, and AI has always been there in whichever forms and fashion we want talking about, probably in the whole world of customer support and services, right? Now, how we see this is broadly, and that's an interesting evolution, right? If you look at the way how if you had to classify all of them under probably everything is a bot. Now, I can have a dumb bot which actually just follows what you're being told. It could be as simple as maybe a script that just runs from a timer or a scheduler, or is being like, triggered through a workflow. I mean, that's the easiest of the so-called dumb bot, if you had to kind of call it. And then you have kind of the semi-intelligent bot where it is kind of your co-agent, your virtual agent, which tags along with you in the day-to-day life of the operations of either an engineer, business process executive, or any of the work from anywhere, remote workers, or any of them for that matter. And then you have more of an autonomous bot, or the more the intelligent bot in that fashion, which is fully autonomous to kind of take over, more or less resonating that with the agentic AI. So if you look at this angle, we see the need for all of this in an enterprise based on obviously the number of use cases. And in the customer server transport, I think that's the most important one, is to ensure that while virtual agents and chatbots are always there, either out of the box from ensuring the 24/7 availability of many of the self-help, self-service kind of support, reducing the wait time or the queue time for these end users. That's one part. Where we see this more evolving is from that to more of personalization. Now the bots are getting more personalized based on either the user's dynamics, maybe his or her ways of working, his or her language, geography, preferences. It is kind of getting more accustomed to it and is personalized already. Where we are seeing this moving from more user personalization is to more situationally personalized. Now I would be the same persona, but if I'm traveling or if I'm in maybe working from another work from anywhere kind of thing in the new norms from anywhere, I mean, then it depends on from where I'm connected. Is it from the hotel or the airport, or maybe I'm in transit? So it gets more situationally personalized to kind of understand what would be the ways of working and to adapt to you. And it gets more and more, I would say, sophisticated as we go towards more agentic AI, starting to take over some of your activities and helping you out in your things. But where we see all of this is to coexist. And the fact that many of these platforms, as you rightly mentioned, have their own native capabilities, whether it is the virtual agents or your chatbots or your team bots or your co-pilot, all of them would have already been there. Where we see customers looking at this is not to rip and replace the platforms, but how each of them can be wired into it. And nothing much greater than the customer service and tech support, right? I mean, whether it is the classical customer support services corporations where these bots can help in enabling, empowering the users and kind of deflecting these tickets and helping them for informational queries, for simple things around the ways from standard operating procedure related password reset kind of a thing. We see that lot of prominence there in the past, and it continues to be there. Where it would kind of take a slight deviation is in the semi-intelligent bot kind of a thing, where it is working more on past trends, surrounding services, and to kind of understand what works well in a situation, probably involving more complex technical issues to resolve it for the users. And from there it evolves. Now, there are different ways of how we are looking at customers adopting it. Most of our conversations for customers have been, I already have a platform. Can you help me just unlock or unravel the out-of-the-box capabilities of this platform to begin with? So that's more of a build versus buy kind of a choice we actually seen with customers. And there are other customers who actually told about, I want to see this more integrated, like an enterprise AI or agentic AI that can help across the enterprise for all these type of use cases, and at the same time can also evolve so that they don't have to over-invest and over-engineer any of these bots as a period of time because of the use cases change, or maybe the scope has increased, or the volume has kind of changed across. So that's why we are seeing this. While there are examples about how the native Amazon's Alexa, probably Netflix recommendation engine, to even banking, Bank of America's Erica, or maybe Spotify and other things have been evolved. We can see the same thing that would go to happen probably in the high-tech space as well. Now, the application can vary right from the customer support, tech support thing to more of professional services, or maybe even to high-end value-add services for even making recommendations and solutions designing. Yeah.
What a fascinating conversation, gentlemen. And I'm sure we can go on for the rest of the day, just keep talking about this. But, before I come back to you for the, final thoughts from you, I mean, as you collect your thoughts, trying to recap. I don't know if I'm going to do a good job sort of doing that, but I'm thinking of it like, everything that we spoke about today could be actually boiled down to three different axes, right? One is this business domain activity with respect to that technology, the tech industry, right? What is that business value that they're unlocking, right? With respect to everything that's happening on that experience, as well as making sure that overall digital commerce and the transactions, everything is far more impactful and valuable. That's one axis. The other axis is where we talked about things like overall workforce revolution, whether it is operational improvements or the the engineering improvements, or essentially empowering the teams to do more things. So there's a whole lot of things within that space. And the last space is really fascinating one, right? Those platform modernization, where we are really talking about, that's where something like an agentic AI, and if I understood it right, could be really accelerating those digital transformations, because digital transformation is not like once done and dusted, right? I mean, it's an evolving process. So how do we make sure that going forward, digital transformation is not something that every company has to start and end at a point of time. Instead, that transformation is something that is constantly happening, right? So as I say, that there are like at least those three aspects. I know that we touched upon a few of the other things, like the impact from things like DeepSeek and democratization and all that, but I feel all of those things would touch into these three pillars. So before we conclude, right, final thoughts from both of you. I'll start with you, Sumit.
Yeah, I think this was a great session, right? And I think we should do more. As you rightly said, we can spend hours together, right? But I think the key takeaway is this, right? AI, while the opportunities and all the maturity is coming through the days and weeks that we see new models being published, I think every customer and anyone who is really focused on AI should not get bogged down by what's happening on the top layer of or the frontier of AI, right? Because most probably your use case might not need the frontier technology models, right? A lot of my customers starts discussing with on models where the real problem is either a data plumbing problem or an insight generation problem or even a pretty simple summarization problem, right? You don't need the 4.0s or the Sonnet 3.5 or Gemini 1.5 to help you with that, right? Just pick up any model and they can solve for it, right? So that is one. The second thing is, as you rightly said, this is not a 1 day, 1 week or a one POC worth of investment, right? Only get into AI if you are really serious about it, right? Because I have seen and industry talks about it, right? Only 5% of AI POCs goes to production. It's not that there was less commitment from the other 95%, but then I don't think people have thought through the entirety and the success metrics of those 95% of projects, right? So if you are not able to think through, like, absolutely connect with a partner like Brilio, where there's a lot of outside in value that can come through, where we can tell you exactly where to start, where to pause, and what to do next, right? So that is the second thing. And the third thing is, you have to always take people along, right? Because that narrative in the industry that AI is going to replace software developers and then SDRs and then marketing people we are way far from that, right? Because this kind of narrative just only creates confusion in the system, because you still need your people to use the AI systems you are building, right? We have not gone to an AGI level of intelligence, and we are way far from that, right? So I think a lot of the leaders, when they do the talk, I think we need to make sure that we are responsible enough to make sure that the human agent interactions and coexistence is well defined through compliance and everything else, and then you see a broader adoption of AI and not like AI just coming in where you could replace human, right? So I would say those are the three main things. And then it's a frontier technology, it is going to keep changing, so just keep your cool and just enjoy this.
What a fantastic way to summarize that, Sumit. Hashim, you have the last word.
Oh yeah, absolutely. See, AI-driven innovation is here and real. It's more about, are we and our partners ready to join the journey and be in the forefront of this transformation? That's for sure. Now, as we see this, there'll be different versions of whether it is personalization or maybe it's more tailored to a customized recommendations for a particular industry that would keep evolving. And that's a continuous evolution, which we have seen there. But where we see the convergence of this as we definitely go by is integration with many other emerging technologies, because nobody can be a siloed AI platform without even coexisting with the other one. So definitely there is more integration that is going to happen, whether it is more from DeepSeek or OpenAI or any of these platforms doing with that. And the way how we are seeing today, more of these large scale players actually, rather than competing, collaborating, we would definitely see that for AI. And all the more reason why the AI, the council, and all these things would be supporting enabling factors for that. Last but not the least is it's beyond the hype now. It's more about adoption and adaptation, and more about the fact that in real use cases, is it accessible to the user? And the fact is, yes, it is there. It's for real. It's more about the faster, the sooner we kind of get engaged onto it on this highway of AI revolution, the faster we are on the way of digital transformation. And I think that's there. And all of us are here to kind of partner and take that journey forward for our customers and our partners.
Great conversation. Thank you so much, Hashim and Sumit. So, one thing to think about, listeners, right? I mean, the AI is not just about smart automation, right? It's about augmentation. I think both Sumit and Hashim really touched upon that, right? It's about supplementing, and it's about creating that higher value. So the future belongs to those of us who can harness AI to sort of drive meaningful change, right? While keeping those outcomes and those core human values, which we also touched upon at the core. Don't forget those two aspects. There's outcomes. Of course, if you don't have an outcomes, don't do it. That's the wrong way to go. And the core human values at core. So thanks for joining us today. Until next time, this is Ajay, and stay curious and stay inspired. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.